Coming up, a CBS documentary is highlighting a group working to bridge the divide between Muslims and Jews. They have been at it for nearly 2 decades, but say it's only gotten harder and more vital over the past 14 months since war broke out in the Middle East. Take a look.
Do you ever feel internally conflicted?
You know, I've always struggled with this idea of, have I gone too far? Am I betraying my people? What I come back to is, if somebody's not giving voice to Andrea, to other people who also have deep connections to the region, then do we ever even stand a chance of being able to understand each other? And I can't walk away from that.
And I want to say, I understand there's a tremendous amount of trauma in Israel right now for Jews and Israelis who are not all Jews.
So do you feel the internal conflict as well?
I absolutely feel the internal conflict.
Aziza Hasan is the executive director of NewGround, a Muslim-Jewish partnership for change. Andrea Hodos is NewGround's associate director. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for the work that you do. You've been friends for years, right? You consider yourselves sisters. You've had to have these hard conversations. Andrea, you said in the documentary that it's not about always looking for similar ground, which is what we always hear, but actually talking about and highlighting the differences. Please tell us how to do this.
So it's both celebrating differences and it's being willing to really lean in, especially when it's hard, and to talk about what's painful. And we all have biases. All of us have biases. And we can actually give one another a gift of perspective when we do that. It's a hard gift sometimes, but it really is a gift to be able to build our capacity for withstanding the hard stuff together.
There, older viewers and maybe some people will remember their parents, particularly in Jewish families, when any news item that came out, anything that happened in the world, it was like, well, is it good for the Jews? Yeah. That was the measure of it. And that's about identification with your group. It's also about concern, fear. Every minority group has some version of that. So how do you get people out of their crouch, where they're fearful for their community and thinking of their community first, to start seeing the other community? Aziza, I'll throw that to you.
So I think fear is a really important emotion that we have to key into, and especially when we're trying to protect ourselves. And what we know from the brain science is that when we're in that state and we're protecting our own, we're also capable then of doing terrible things to other people. And the way through it is to touch and really identify what it is that we're protecting, who it is that we're protecting, and how we can protect them even more so that the fear doesn't control us, but so that we are also in a state of awareness. Because the problem with fear is that then we start to make terrible decisions that impact other people in permanent ways. Yeah. And so one of the things that we especially do is we ask people to have the courage to sit with their own pain, but also to sit with and show up for the pain of other people. And so it's like the age-old, like when someone is hurting, you show up. When they are in a state of grief, you show up to the funeral. You are there with them and you are alongside them, even if you don't have the words when you do.
So the work that your organization does, you have a year-long fellowship where people from both backgrounds come together and have these discussions, do activities, try to bridge that gap. What is the recipe when you do see a breakthrough in conversation, when you do see progress, when someone is able to look at the world through someone else's eyes? What is it that led to that? And maybe you guys can use yourselves as an example, conversations you've had in the last 14 months where you were able to push through. Yeah. How does that happen?
I think it's exposure, being willing to listen. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to listen and hold someone else's pain when you're in pain yourself. So we work to create a setting where it becomes safer for people to do that. Safe to feel vulnerable. And it's when you get people to this space that they can begin to listen to the hard things coming from one another. So like for me, one of the things over the past number of years, I feel like every year I understand the impact of 9/11 on the Muslim community on a deeper level. I think I've got it, and then there's always something more. And just understanding what that feels like for people has really helped me to grow my own perspectives.
For you, Aziza?
Yeah, I think it's really especially being able to name the hard things, to say like, I have family. My dad's little village in Khibab, like, are the stories that I grew up with. And he described this place that was almost mythical in our evening stories. And I so desperately wanted to go back and see them. And to describe the yearning and like now I went back 2 years ago and you can't find it on a map. And to describe like what that was like. And then also to sit down with Andrea and, touch and talk about how it's challenging for me that like her family can easily go and make choices to live there, but I can't. And I think it's naming those things that actually helps those things not control my angst and tension between us.
Yeah. And I would say one of the things that will come up for me is I feel that both of our peoples belong there deeply. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy for me when I hear people denying a Jewish connection in some way. Even if that Jewish connection doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a specific political end, but we turn there 3 times a day. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both
Thank you.
for the work that you do and for this advice to all of us for how we can have these conversations. Aziza, Hasan, and Andrea Hodos, thank you so much.